Welcome back to the Manor Entropians. Julian McBain here, and today we are going to be talking about the basics of hunting in Entropia universe while hunting dusters, which are mobs that are actually at my level. As opposed to... Oh, that's not the weapon I thought it was. Okay. Hang on. That doesn't help us any. It also doesn't help that I have no armor on. I'm probably going to die, and it's totally my fault. That's pretty sad. So, now that we've started hunting, let's talk about efficient hunting. But before we get started, if you're new to the channel, welcome to the Manor. Please take a moment and subscribe down below. We are on the road to 13 million subscribers, one subscription at a time, so make sure you subscribe. Also, please consider going to patreon.com/JulianMcBain if you would like to support my work. If you do, you will get copies of The Modern Entropian and Personal Finance for Gamers. Thank you so much for your support. Okay. My freaking headphones weren't plugged in. I've got no armor on. I'm just a hot mess today. Okay. So, let's talk about the basics of hunting in Entropia universe. And I know I've covered this in pieces over time as an Entropia universe streamer and YouTuber, but I really want to kind of dig into it. I'm doing this as part of my Modern Entropian series, and so I'm going to touch on really the three basic pieces about hunting. One, how to determine if you're really winning at a hunt. I'm just going to use bookends to pull them. That way I don't end up sunk in to a bunch of dusters. The difference between eco hunting and abundance hunting, and ranged versus melee versus mind force, which, well, mind force is actually ranged, so that's part of range. But to really just dig into the basics of those pieces of hunting. And so, to start off, let's talk about hunting generally. Do I not have... Oh, for Christ. Probably help if I was actually amped up. Everything's going well. So, hunting generally. When hunting, you really need to find something that is within your level. I can fight things and win against things that are against mobs that are twice the level of these dusters. I've gone after level 35, 36 Aatrox and won. It's a tough fight. I might have to heal. I've also fought shubs on Monria that are up in that area, and it's a hard fight. But you can do it. So if you're up for a challenge, you can definitely go after these really difficult mobs. See how well you can fight them. Do your best. It can be a lot of fun, actually, because you're pushing the limits of what your avatar can do. However, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And although this really falls into the first piece of eco versus abundance, this is part of it that's really less about eco and more about not getting outside the bounds of where you should be hunting. So, a couple of factors you need to think about when you're hunting mobs. One, can I beat the mob? Right? If you can't beat the mob, you're just wasting money. Now, if you're group hunting, that's different. You don't often know if you can beat the mobs. You probably won't be able to beat the mob solo, but if you're group hunting, a group of 5 people can take down mobs that individuals can't. The important thing is to make sure you try to go after mobs that won't one-hit kill you. And if you do go after mobs that one-hit kill you, don't wear armor. And I'll get into that more when we get into the eco part of this, but the point is that you want to make sure that when you're hunting a mob, every ped you spend is going to end up coming back to you with the normal decay rate of like 90. It's like a 4 to 5% decay rate on ped spent, right? So if you spend 100 ped on a mob, you're probably going to get 95 ped back. Now, you're not going to spend that much on any mob in Entropia universe if you're doing any sort of normal. Well, I can't say that because I'm sure Ubers do go through ped like that. But that's the idea. Is on a standard mob, if you dump in 100 ped, you're probably going to get about between 90 and 95 ped back. Some of that difference is going to go into your skills. Skills cost money because they can be sold later. These are all things to keep in mind. The other thing to keep in mind is your looter profession. Your looter professions are what determine how much return you get on any particular mob. And the level of your looter profession will determine how high of a level of mob you can hunt. Now, here's the best part. You ready for this part? This is the greatest part. Looter profession level does not match up to mob profession level. Period. It is up to you to experiment to figure out what you need to be hunting for each mob type to determine what level of that mob provides you the best return. So how do you go about doing that? Glad you asked. The best way to do that is to do extended hunting. Honestly, I keep a spreadsheet. I have for years. I had part of 2018 spreadsheeted, all of 2019, and all of 2020, all on spreadsheets. I know my exact P&L statement for each year. Now it's almost exact. There are rounding issues with it, so I'm probably off by. I might be off by 10 ped a year. No. In the corporate world, a $1 difference on P&L for rounding, no one's gonna care. But I do. I keep a very diligent P&L on my computer. And I track it every year. Like last year, I was still figuring things out. I wasn't hyper efficient. And I think I lost some 6,000 ped overall throughout the year. But I also I changed some of the calculations. Like when I first went into spreadsheeting, I counted buying shares and deeds as spent ped. It's not spent ped. That's money invested. That's different. But I couldn't go back and figure out where I'd made those purchases because I didn't do it the same way. So I had tried to keep track of that separately, but it turned out to not really be worth it, especially since you have to track the markets on a regular basis. It's just a pain in the ass. So as far as I'm concerned, it's just unrealized ped. That's all it is. It's ped in another vehicle, just like in real life. That's all an investment is. But back to hunting, so I don't tangent too far. The big part about hunting is when you do a hunt, the hunt has to be large enough for it to matter. Speaking of which, okay, good. We got plenty of ammo. And what I mean by that is, on any standard hunt, and for lower level players, it's not going to get this big right away. Because if you attempted to do a hunt of this size on a low level mob, you're going to be there for a long time. And that's great. That's great. That means you don't have to spend a whole lot of money to have a lot of fun. I say that the standard hunt is 100 ped. Straight up. Standard hunt, 100 ped in ammo. Take down your results, rinse and repeat. After about 5 or 6 hunts, which allows to, really you should be going for 10. That should give you the expected average rate of return for a hunt of that size on that mob at that time. And keep in mind, it's going to get a little better every time you hunt as your looter professions go up, especially at low levels. This is why it's not so great below, say, level 10 in your profession. So like if I'm currently a level 46, I think, in swords. Yeah, 46 swordsman hit. So my skills go up relatively slowly. My levels go up relatively slowly compared to a new player. Once you hit level 10, that's when the geometric reduction, the diminishing returns really start to hit you for skilling. that's when you can start really reeling in the facts and the numbers and determining, okay, on a 100 pet hunt, if I had a duster that's level 14, which level 10 would not want to do here, but like if you're hunting Panleons over in the starter area, if you're at Calypso and you're hunting Daikaba, you can say, okay, for 100 ped, I'm making 92% return on a duster, but 97% return on a Panleon. So I should focus on hunting Panleons to build my skills up because I'm going to get a better return. Then that's how you know what to be hunting at that time. And I have spent a lot of time determining those facts and checking that rate of return. I spend a lot of time off camera doing that. I know what my current average is now. After the next set of Mayhems, that could totally change. Mayhems are the biggest thing to screw up your hunting tables. I am 100% serious because here's the benefit to Mayhems. It is a whole lot of just direct grind-focused hunting. Your primary loot is shrapnel, which encourages you to continue hunting, and the loot table is higher than average, and there's more average globals in the Mayhems, which I'm sure Mindark does on purpose to encourage people to participate, because for Mindark, that's probably where they make the bulk of their money every year, is in Mayhems. Because you can account for less markup in sheer volume. In a lot of people, a large percentage of the population, players of Entropia Universe who don't play regularly will come back to play Mayhem and just do Mayhems. That is a fact. They do Mayhems and they do Migration. There are some players that do just that. And so Mindark's willing to put out a little more loot because they're getting all of this extra income from all of these extra players. Crafters love it too because they're selling extra weapons to all of these players that only come in for those events. And they'll stock up because they're smart. I'll get into that during my Crafters video. So, okay. We've gotten into the basics of hunting. Now let's talk about kind of the more nitty-gritty pieces of it. Let's talk about eco versus abundant. Okay. What is eco hunting? The eco theory of hunting is, and this was really important during before Loot 2.0 came out. It's less important now, but there's still some wisdom in it. Actually, there's still quite a bit of wisdom in it. So let's talk about eco hunting first. Eco hunting is when you make every effort to reduce the total amount of decay to your own ped as possible. That's reducing the amount of decay on armor, reduce the amount of decay on amps, if not, or plates. So this is especially used by ranged players. By their very nature, it's really hard to hunt super eco when you are hunting melee. But what you do is when you're hunting ranged, you fire at the mob and you back up. You're just constantly backing up. And the weapon you have has to make it so the mob has as little opportunity to regenerate as possible. And that's true in both cases. Because regenerated health is wasted ped. And so you're reducing the amount of damage that's coming into you. You're reducing the chances that you are going to get killed, which is just wasted ped, because oftentimes the mob is going to heal by the time you go to hunt it again. And once it heals all the way up, there's a good argument to be made that the loot table on that mob resets. I don't know the exact way that Mindark calculates the loot, and the Lootius algorithm is probably the best kept secret in the Western Hemisphere. But the idea is that when you pump ped in, you should be getting relatively a return on that ped that is relatively stable. The RNG on it is fairly low, and it has to be that way so that it's not Mindark doesn't get reclassified as a casino. The Kingdom of Sweden is extremely focused on that. As is the owner of Mindark, who may be an eccentric rich guy, but he's not stupid. So a piece of that will go into your globals pool, a piece of that will go into your skills, and you'll get the rest back in loot. The focus of eco is to prevent decay. By preventing decay, maximum damage for best efficiency weapon, least amount of damage to armor, and plates, theoretically your total return on mob damage should be highest. And to a certain extent, you can be both eco and abundant at the same time, and I will get into that shortly, but that theory is that if you may take longer hunts, they might have lower pet outlays, but you're saving money overall. You should have a better chance at profit, whether it's through just raw profit, which is unlikely, or through selling at markup, which is where profit is supposed to come through from on this platform. Now you have abundance hunting, and this is the type of hunting that I do. Abundance hunting eschews the idea of the strict rules of eco. One of the ways you can tell I'm an abundance hunter is I'm a melee hunter. It is really hard to be super eco when you are a melee hunter because you have to focus on things like keeping yourself alive. Your armor is going to take more damage on average. You got to rely on your skills to reduce that. Now, that being said, because you're towing it with your opponent, your skills like Evader are going to go up faster. That's one of the benefits to abundance hunting. The downside to abundance hunting is if you screw it up, you're going to be feeling it in the ped card a lot harder than you are as a ranged hunter. Some things for abundance hunting you should keep in mind if you decide to abundance hunt. Number 1, amp up. You generally get a stable return on the amount of ped used to hunt a mob. So amp up. I use a melee trauma amplifier 4, and I use the M Matrix Delta lifesteal amp to prevent myself from having to pull out the regenerative or the restorative Mind Force chip. Here's the thing about using healing chips or FAPs. I feel that it is less efficient in multiple ways for me to use a healing chip or FAP than it is for me to spend the money on the lifesteal amp. Here's why. If you defeat the mob and then you can heal up, it's probably 6 to 1, half dozen of the other. More often than not, if you're going to have to heal, you're going to be doing it while you're in combat. If you're having to heal while you're in combat, you're just giving the mob an opportunity to hit you more. If you're giving them the opportunity to hit you more, that's more ped wasted, and in all likelihood, your overall efficiency is going to go down, which means your return on ped is going to go down. The Ludius algorithm is top secret. It's a trade secret. You will go to jail for a very long time if you break into MindArc and pull the Ludius algorithm to just take a picture of it or something, just to look at it. Okay? I'm willing to bet it's easier to get a hold of the nuclear football. Okay, maybe not that, but damned close. I am convinced from experience that the amount of efficiency in the way that you on your weapon and in the way you spend ped to defeat a mob is part of that return. Now, it sounds like that's eco, but it's not the same. Eco relies on the idea of reducing the amount of ped outlay. When it comes to efficient abundance hunting, you don't care about ped outlay, you care about time. How long does it take for me to take down that mob? Do I do it the first time or do I die? What is my weapon's actual efficiency rating total? I did not recognize that was 666 before. That's kind of hilarious. And while those are factors in eco too, a lot of eco from what I've seen. And you know what, guys? Comment below and correct me if I'm wrong. A lot of eco that I've seen focuses on the mechanics of the fight rather than the numbers of the fight. Now, in some games, mechanics are extremely important. Places mechanics are extremely important. World of Warcraft. Final Fantasy 15. 14, excuse me. Final Fantasy 14. Virtueverse, which is going to be an up and coming. All rely heavily on mechanics. Where mechanics are important, that's how you become more efficient. Now, you can argue that a couple of those are really bad examples because they're, not real cash economies. Actually, all 3 of those currently are not real cash economies. Only one is planning to go that route because it's still in development. There are places in Entropia universe where mechanics are extremely important. That place happens to be space fighting against other players, or PvP in general. PvP is by its nature an extremely mechanical process, especially when you're ranged fighting. Dodging matters. Cover matters. Makes it harder to hit you. We're not talking about that. We're talking about hunting. Mob hunting, I hate to say it, you pretty much can... If you could set this up using math for best efficiency and have... I could set up an AI... If I had the skill, I don't have the skill to do this. I could theoretically set up an AI program to run the numbers, do the calculations over iteration, determine the best efficiency for skill type, and just clean house. 97% return rate, sell that shit for markup, rinse, repeat, GG. Probably wouldn't be that high of a return rate except if you're on Monria. But you get what I'm saying, though, right? It's all about the numbers. The mechanics are less, in my opinion, the mechanics are less important. Now, there are players out there who will completely disagree with me. They're absolutely entitled to that opinion. I'm not saying I'm right. In my experience, this is what has worked for me. In their experience, other things have worked for them. Experiment. Decide the way that you want to hunt and just roll with it. Have fun with it. The purpose of this is to have fun. The hunting is really the game part of the friggin' game here, okay? So just do what makes you feel like you're playing the best you can play. Which brings us to the second part of this. Ranged versus... Oh, no, I apologize. Armored versus unarmored. We'll get into range versus melee here in a little bit. The benefit to armored hunting is you can go after mobs that max out your looter profession. This gives you a higher chance at globals. This gives you higher types of loot that might have better markup. The downside is decay to your armor. And it is arguable whether or not you get that decay back in PED. You do get a percentage of it back, but the more you outlay, the more that you spend, right? So, sorry, I needed to wet my whistle there. So, if you're able to fight something unarmored, like when I go and hunt Panleons, I actually sweat Panleons, they're level 3, and I don't need any armor. Well, if I'm not wearing armor, I'm not catching decay. It all goes on my life, on my hit points. So if you can hunt unarmored, obviously that is going to be an optimal situation. Let's face it, though, if you're hunting unarmored, you're not going after mobs that are maxing out your skill points. Almost universally the case, except at the lowest possible levels. So, now as you get higher skills, that will change. As your evade goes up and stuff, you'll be able to dodge better, you'll be taking less damage. Like, I can theoretically take these guys unarmored with my amps, but it's a tough fight, and it's close, and I might have to heal. So, anything I'm saving on decay to the armor, I'm taking in decay to my healing chip. And you lose the efficiency of not having to stop fighting to heal yourself. Not a great trade in my opinion. Now, if I'm training my healing, that's totally different. I will occasionally, I don't do it very often, deliberately wade into a situation where I need to heal just so that I can train my chip up and get better at that skill. And in fact, I think at this point, I'm actually ready for the Restorative Nano Chip 6. Good luck finding one that's unlimited. You have to do Mission Galactica. Something I probably should do at some point. So, benefits to armored hunting, you can max out what you hunt. You can hunt heavier mobs, you can go fighting, and it allows you to really challenge the tougher things in the game. Downside to armored fighting, and the benefit of unarmored fighting, armor decay. Real simple. Keep in mind, this is something that you really want to think about when deciding to go after a mob armored versus unarmored. There is a limit. There's absolutely a limit. There are mobs... Oh god, please tell me I did not disconnect again. Okay, good. There are mobs that you should never wear armor for. Any mob that can one-shot you while you're armored, you should be hunting without armor. period, because all they're doing is wasting your armor decay. So like when I was hunting with the Titans of Space, I've gone on a couple of their hunts, just had some fun with it. They're a great crew, fantastic people, but they hunt these very powerful mobs. A lot of them will one-shot me even if I'm wearing armor, especially during the dev team when the Entropia universe devs come around and start dropping mobs in. If you're wearing armor doing that, you're just wasting decay. If the mob can one-shot you or two-shot you with armor on, take the damn armor off. You're beyond that point. That being said, there are going to be points in the game, in the platform, where you're powerful enough with, or you have the right armor to hunt something that will mince you without armor, but won't mince you with armor, and you're able to hunt them. That's the balance you have to strike. And keep in mind, not all armors are created equal. I wear Ghost. I don't have plates. The benefit to that is that I haven't put a lot of money out there for armor. The downside to that is that I am basically restricted on what I can hunt. I have the skills. I could throw on something like Perseus and go hunting something that is substantially bigger than what I hunt. However, I believe firmly that it is not worth the pet outlay at this point in my Entropia career. Therefore, I wear Ghost. I should, at this point, be looking at getting plates. That is a true story. I have not decided to outlay the pet for that yet. That will happen eventually. I've been meaning to for a while. It just hasn't happened yet. Every time I've used plates, it is... And I've gotten like 1 point limited plates off of missions and stuff, especially early on. They substantially improve quality of life. Even the 1-pointers, you don't think they'd make a difference, but when it's 1 point per shot and you're in an extended fight, the amount of health damage that you don't take does make a significant difference. So it is a wonderful quality of life thing. Which brings us to ranged versus melee. Now, you all know me. Julian McBain is a melee combat evangelist, primarily because I do it in real life as well as in game. But let's talk about the advantages and disadvantages of both types of combat. Let's start with ranged. The benefits to ranged combat include the following. You can use the mechanics of the game to reduce the amount of damage that you and your armor take. That's a simple fact. Especially on the slower mobs. Those crabs, the big tide claws that we flew over to... Oh no, I had to reset the recording. The big tide claws that are giant crabs here on Cyrene are so slow, you can just kite them. They're one of the few mobs in this game that you can kite. And for those of you who are not familiar with kiting, here is what kiting is. Kiting is when you shoot something and you're backing up, and then when it gets close enough to almost hit you, you turn around and you run away to get some space, then you turn back around and you keep shooting while you back up. That's kiting. The term, I believe, comes from WoW, but it might come from EQ, where instead of using it to shoot mobs, although hunters tend to use it a lot, or in spellcasters, it would normally be used where one player has aggro, is kiting the mobs around the room so the rest of the people in the team can focus on one mob. And then the team draws off another mob. The kiting player continues kiting the mob pack around the room. It's basically, in Entropia, the most common use of kiting is to train mobs on people. So you don't see it a lot in Entropia universe, because if you see someone kiting, there's probably a train behind them. And the best use of a mob train is to take out bots out of Sweatfield, which is a thing at Club Royal. I've seen it happen. It's kind of hilarious. All of a sudden, someone's coming in. They're on auto run, and they're screaming "run" as they run through the middle of the Sweatfield. They've got half a dozen Amooblomaxes or 300 Berry Clud behind them, and all of the players that are actually present, scurry toward the turrets. But that's what you do, is you use that principle to avoid getting hit. And then once you are engaged in close combat, you stand there and you shoot them dead. The benefits to ranged combat: one, you are far less likely to end up in a multi-mob situation like I am now, because you're able to keep your range. The better your rifle gets, the further a distance you're going to be able to shoot them, the more time you'll have before they get to you. You can also put a number of attachments on ranged weapons that aren't necessarily available for melee, for instance, scopes, laser sights are the two that I can really think of off the top of my head, and ranged weapons have amps just like melee weapons do. Melee. Here's the benefit to melee. First off, let's talk about the big disadvantage to melee. You are going to get hit more. Thus, your armor is going to decay more. You're going to end up dying more often. It's just a fact. Okay? Here's the benefit, though. Because you're always towing it, you're getting hit more. And you're like, well, wait, Julian, that was a... Well, yes, it is a disadvantage, but it's also an advantage, because getting hit is what grinds up your evade skill. It's also what grinds up your health. So currently, my total health is 160, which is high for my level. I don't know by how much, but I do know it's high. The other big benefit is carry capacity. I'm able to carry 362 kilograms. I know players who have been playing this far longer than I have who can't carry 300 because they're dedicated ranged players. Being melee builds strength. Because of that, you'll be able to carry more stuff. And I mean, I'm carrying around 212 kilograms of shit. And frankly, some of it is just like shit. Like, why am I carrying all this crap? Why do I carry all this crap on me? I carry all this crap on me. 3 sets of armors. Why am I carrying 3 sets of armors? And apparently some arm guards I didn't realize I got in a drop that I need to calculate out. I'm doing it because I can. That's it. I have the carry capacity. Why wouldn't I? So those are the benefits to melee fighting. Now, you all know I'm a melee evangelist. I love melee fighting. It's my preference. I just like towing it with an opponent. I love getting in the ring. That being said, I do appreciate the use of a gun in this game, just like I do in real life, for different reasons, obviously. But because of that, I have made the choices I have made. You are going to make choices that work best for you. Early on, it makes a lot more sense to use the TT rifle, because a lot of those low-level mobs are going to pack together. You're going to end up having to use them to draw one off anyway. That's the big key to melee playing, and I should eventually do another... Maybe toward the end, I'll do a whole thing on melee hunting again. But there are a couple of videos on my channel that you can watch on Introduction to Melee Hunting. You'll see I use the gun to draw the mob away from the pack so I don't get completely surrounded by mobs. So you're going to end up having to grind those rifle skills a little bit anyway. But realistically, I think that, in my opinion, melee is the best for me. You might find that range just works better for you. And you know what? If it does, awesome. So that is hunting in a nutshell. Let me just make sure I didn't miss anything. No, I think that pretty much covers it. In our next video, we will be visiting mining, which is something I have been trying to pick up again. I really do enjoy it. It's just a very mechanical thing to do. I can throw on a podcast and just listen to it while I mine. I haven't put enough time into it, so I'm literally using the TT miner to do it. And I know people will critique me all day long about my mining, but I don't care. So that is what you'll have. Oh, these are the tide claws I was talking about earlier. You can absolutely kite the living shit out of these guys. They are slower than mud. So, okay, I'm going to stop rambling. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe down below. We are on the road to 13 million subscribers, one subscription at a time, so make sure you subscribe. Also, please consider going to patreon.com/JulianMcBain if you want to support my work. If you do, you will get a copy of the Modern Entropian, what this video is kind of doing a summation of, but it goes into far more detail. And personal finance for gamers to help you with your own real-life financial needs, because that's what I do for a living. In the meantime, I also want to give a shout to my patrons, Red Kryptonite, Jason Lambertson, and Spectrum 3900. Thank you so much for your support, guys. I really appreciate it. So, as always, I appreciate all of you for taking the time to watch my channel, and we will see you in the next one.